Welcome to our official second live video. Hopefully we're getting a little bit better and better at this as we go. I know last week, or the last time we did it, we had some issues with mic volumes, but we think we've tweaked that in. Let us know if not. But thank you so much for checking it out. If you're with us live, that's amazing, and we really appreciate it. If you're checking it out after the fact, we hope that you find this information pretty valuable, because what we're hoping to talk about a little bit is just kind of obviously what's kind of going on in El Paso, what's going on with us, but we're going to dial it in a little bit. We are, of course, a real estate channel here, more or less, and so we're going to talk about some interesting stories that we've noticed on the buy side and on the sell side. But before we jump into all the real estate type of stuff, let's just kind of check in with everybody and see what's going on. Alex, how's life treating you?
Pretty good. Can't complain, honestly. Everything's going pretty good. The weather's getting a little bit better. One thing I tell people, I can't really complain about the weather because I used to live in Portland, so it was always raining. This is my type of weather. But yeah, during summer, there was a couple of days that it got pretty hot. But now it's starting to slowly get better. It's not cool or anything, but it's getting a lot better. One thing to mention, let us know in the comments if, maybe my microphone is not loud enough, if John's microphone is loud, because like John said, we're still testing all this stuff out, and we think we got it figured out, but, going live sometimes things can happen. So just let us know if there's any issues. We can try to fix it in the moment. But yeah, everything's going pretty good. We took a trip to Vegas, but I'm curious, before we talk about that, is talk about your trip.
Yep. And I want to piggyback on your weather thing, because I wanted to jump on that too. July was hot. Like, it was nuts. Now, keep in mind, it was heat dome everywhere in the country. Pretty much was hot, but July was hot.
Yeah.
What was it? Wednesday or something. A cold front kind of came in. We got a little bit of rain, and then after that, it was cool. I went for my first run actually outside and didn't die. So yeah, I told somebody, like, September, this is almost like my favorite time of year, kind of, because it's like all of the hot weather's behind you, but now it's starting to cool off. It's still pleasant. It's sunny. Maybe we get some rain, but you basically just know that the weather's just going to get nicer, nicer, nicer. So yeah, definitely weather is turning awesome. So yeah, just to kind of, I guess, talk a little bit about what we've been up to. Alex, and Amanda went on a trip, which is awesome. Leah and I went on a trip. I think it was like 3-4 weeks ago, more or less. If we can, I think Miguel's got some footage of it here. Basically, we went up to Southwest Colorado, more or less. Southwest Colorado, there's like these kind of old, a lot of like mining towns. It's part of the Rocky Mountains, but specifically it's the San Juan Mountains. Little towns up there: Durango, Silverton, Telluride. I've got a video of me and Leah and the dogs in this gondola in Telluride. Basically, obviously in the winter, like, it takes you up and down the mountain to ski and everything, but in the summer it still runs. So yeah, we checked that out. Weather was a lot cooler. Mountains, green. I actually went up there because there's a huge race called the Leadville 100 that's really important for the running community, and so I was just curious. I wanted to just see what it was like. Went on a little run there. Didn't get very far. Well, I got 17 miles, but it took me like a long time.
We're used to 50, so yeah, 17.
Yeah. It was just so much climbing and mountains, and we've got the Franklin Mountains here, but quite honestly, you can get to the top of the Franklin Mountains in 30 minutes if you aggressively hike, hour if you take your time. But out there, it's a whole nother world. So yeah, nice trip, fun to take the dogs. We got this little camper trailer we've been using a lot, and so it's just nice to get away. So
crazy to me crazy to me that they say they can get on top of the Franklin Mountains in 30 minutes or an hour. That's crazy. It'd probably take me like 5.
I don't think so. It depends where you go up at, but they look big. But once you start climb,
But where's that area that there's chains and you gotta like physically climb the chains?
Well, that's a different area.
Okay.
There's different areas that would take you longer to get up than others, but there's some easy ones where you can get up in like half an hour. Yeah. Miguel's done it.
And how long did it take you?
Yeah.
It took like 40 minutes.
40 minutes, all right.
To get all the way up there.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a good trip. But nothing like Vegas. Let's hear about the Vegas trip.
It's just different types of trips, and I would enjoy those trips. I'm just very bad with clearly physical activity like that, which I need to be a lot better on. That's what I'm telling you. We probably should try to find a soccer team or something. But yeah, Vegas, I've never been there. And me being from Mexico, right, it's like, oh, you hear Vegas, you hear New York, and it's like, this like, oh, wow, in the movies. So I've always wanted to be there, right? But my sister and a lot of people went there, like, Vegas is not that cool. It's kind of, and I was like, I still want to go. So last minute, I planned a trip, went to Vegas. I enjoyed myself quite a bit. And what I've noticed about Vegas is what people say, it's a playground for adults. It's like a Disney for adults. And it kind of literally feels like it because just everything, right? You go to the hotels, you go to the mall, everything is just kind of themed, like in like top of the line, in my opinion. We had a lot of fun. It was cleaner than I thought it was gonna be. There was a crazy amount of people, John. Like I'm telling you, it was like Thursday at 9 a.m. and there was drunk people walking in the casinos. Everybody was gambling already. It was like they don't sleep, right? But I had a lot of fun. Me and Amanda like to people watch more than anything. We didn't gamble. I was like, I gotta gamble one time because I'm in Vegas. Kind of like, oh look, I gamble, but I didn't. But we did have a lot of fun. We went to a lot of shows actually. And if you guys never been to Vegas and if you're interested about the shows, they can be quite a bit expensive, but they're really worth it, John. Like it's just top of the line everything. The actors, the dancing, the singing. It's just. We had a lot of fun. Now, the cool thing about Vegas is just you can take different type of trips, right? Mm-hmm. You can go like what we did, just kind of like we walked the strip. It was crazy. We walked everywhere all night. It was a lot of fun. But you can go. A lot of people go there to party, right? They have the pools with the party pools and all this stuff. A lot of people go with more kids. So there's a lot of different trips kind of that you can take to Vegas. Like I say, ours was just getting to know the strip, the casinos, everything that you see on TV, and then the shows. Again, lucky enough, we did 7 shows. Some better than others, but yeah, it was a great time. And again, I had expectations gonna be a little bit worse, and I had a lot of fun. It was great. Awesome. It was a great trip. Yeah.
What kind of shows did you see?
Oh, so we went to a haunted museum. Apparently, there's a haunted museum with all the most haunted items in the world. Apparently. Kind of creepy. We did like, of course, me, I like dogs and animals. We went to like a dog show. It's like one of those America's Got Talent, right? And they win, and then they have a show in Vegas, and it was like cats and dogs and tricks, whatever. It was fine. And then we went to the Blue Man Group with. Oh yeah. Since I was a kid, I wanted to go to that show. And John, it is amazing. The live music, just everything is great. We went to the dinner with it's like a dinner with like the knights thing. Yeah. Awesome. Thing. You get like a miniature like turkey, chicken, and potatoes, and you gotta eat everything with your hands. And there's like it's just awesome. I don't want to spoil it to me, but it's awesome if you've been there. And then our flight got canceled, unfortunately, but fortunately because we had an extra day. And we were like, should we walk around the strip? We were dead. Our legs were just jello. Or like, or should we go do more shows? So we ended up doing 2 more shows. We went to Cirque du Soleil. And again, awesome. So yeah, it was awesome. I want to go again. Not in a while, but I do want to go again because we had a lot of fun. It's great. But not to live, no offense if you live in Vegas. But every time I walk, all this was like, oh man, I love El Paso. Like, it's fine. This is cool, but I wouldn't want to. And I know people in Vegas, they don't live on the strip, but it's just a lot of people, a lot of traffic, and I don't know. We came to El Paso and we were like, man, where's the traffic? And we were very happy about it. So, just different perspectives, I guess.
Yeah, totally different city. Like Vegas, obviously, huge tourism industry, where El Paso, I mean, let's be honest, like we don't have much of a tourism, if any, tourism industry, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So it's just totally different vibes, I think, from both places. But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what we've been up to, I guess. I guess we could jump into kind of what we were going to talk about a little bit, being that we are kind of real estate kind of stuff. You want to go first? Talk about, we were going to just kind of share like an interesting buyer story that we've had lately, and also kind of an interesting seller story. We do know that a lot of people are kind of curious about what's going on in the real estate market here in El Paso. And so even if you're not, I think the stories are interesting, because whether or not you're going to buy or sell a house right now, what's happening in the market, I think it's probably in everyone's best interest just to kind of know what's going on, because we're going to start talking about it a little bit in the future. But I do think that we are headed essentially for a bit of a housing correction in the next 6 to 12 months. And so we figured that we might as well, kind of start sharing some of the insights that we might be seeing. And so you have a story about one of our buyers. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and to your point, it's we always, right, since we started, we always get people interested on the market, right? COVID just changed things completely. And every state, every city, the market is just completely different. So yeah, we always get people, how's the market? A lot of people think that the market here, since a lot of other places like Dallas and stuff, they're dropping prices, they think that Austin, they think it's the same here in El Paso. It's not the case, but it's definitely changing. Like you said, there's a lot of people and a lot of signs that says that we might get, like you said, a correction, right? And there's a lot of interest stories. Like you said, a lot of people are like, oh man, I didn't even know that's a thing, because there's just so much stuff in the real estate process, right, that that goes through. And anything can happen. Crazy things can happen. When you think everything's going to go fine, just completely changes. So one of the crazier stories, which is different stories that it hasn't really happened, not at this extreme. We had a buyer who was looking at a beautiful home.
We got the pictures.
Yeah, we got the pictures. And in
the Northeast.
And the Northeast with solar panels, a pool. The home was priced at $299,999, so pretty much $300,000. Our client got their offer accepted at asking price, and everything was going great until we got to the appraisal. And everybody knows, right? The appraisal sometimes, it can come a little bit higher or low, and we kind of figure it out based on our experience if the home is priced correctly or not. Now there can be issues in there that is kind of sometimes out of our range, out of our league. So basically, long story short, the appraisal came in, I think, at $251,000 or $250,000, which is $50,000 under what we agree. So when we heard that, we were like, what is going on? There has to be something wrong here. So of course, you try to protest, you try to all this stuff, but I think at the end of the day, there was just an issue or a mistake with the Central Appraisal District, the square footage that they put. So they made a mistake, and unfortunately, my opinion, obviously for the sellers, they had to sell their house $50,000 under asking price. Obviously
which was 40.
Right, for a buyer, obviously great, because he got the house $250,000. In my opinion, that house was worth close to the $300,000. So it's stuff that it doesn't happen as often, but you don't expect it to happen, right? You're like, okay, the appraisal might come, but $50,000. I'm sure there must be other stories out there, but for me, that was just like, what's going on in here? And it ended up working out for the buyer, which was great.
Yeah.
For the buyer, which is great, right? But yeah, it's just things that you wouldn't expect, right? And then it just throws you to the loop, and you gotta figure it out, how to work these.
And I think what's important about that story, since we were representing the buyer, it worked out great for us, because our buyer got the home for significantly less than what they thought they were going to get the home for. But appraisals may not sound too sexy, but they're key to what I think is going to happen in the market. And let me just let the teacher in me come out here for a second. So what is an appraisal? First of all, if you're gonna purchase a home and you're gonna use a home loan, you're gonna use a lender, a bank, a mortgage company. Once you get under contract on the home, the lender, the bank who's giving you the money, they're going to order an appraisal of the property, because they want to make sure that the property is worth whatever they're about to give you, the money for. So let's use this example. If you get under contract on a home that's $300,000, the bank is going to have an appraiser go out there and confirm that, yes, this home is valued at $300,000, because banks are not going to give you a loan for a $300,000 asset if it's only worth $250,000, right? Banks are in the business of making money, and they're not going to overpay for a home. Right. Now, my story is going to involve a cash buyer, and cash doesn't matter, because if you're buying the home for cash, an appraisal typically doesn't get done. A buyer could do an appraisal if they wanted to, but they never do. So most people are buying homes with a home loan, and so the appraiser, you don't get to choose the appraiser. The lender chooses the appraiser. It's a third-party, unbiased person who's licensed in the state of Texas to do appraisals.
Yep.
And essentially what that appraiser is going to do is they're going to do what we do. They're going to do a comparative market analysis. They're going to look at the homes within the area of about a mile radius or so, similar square footage, similar everything. In the last 6 months, what have these homes that are like it closed for? And they're going to base their valuation off of that. Now, this is really important. Maybe not as exciting if you're not a real estate agent, but this is super important to understand because, like I said, this is going to tie into everything that we're going to start talking about. So if an appraisal comes in low, then there's a problem. And so that's exactly what happened for our buyer. This poor homeowner thought they were going to get $300,000, right? They were under contract for $300,000. They're planning, oh man, this is great. I'm going to get $300,000. 2-3 weeks later into the process, the appraisal comes back at $250,000. And guess what? Now, the homeowner could have said, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to sell the house. But they were never going, once it's been appraised at $250,000, there was a problem with the square footage, then they're stuck. And so this seller, they were just like, well, they had to just eat it. They had to just suck it up and take $250,000 instead of that $300,000. Super important though, because like I said, it is going to tie into what I think is going to potentially lead us into this housing correction. But let me tell you a story about a seller. We've got some of the pictures on this one too. So this is a recent home that we listed for a homeowner, and we sold for them. Epic location, Cimarron Canyon on the west side. It's probably, dare I say, the nicest location in all of El Paso, basically. Walkable community, new homes, modern, great views of the mountain, really nice. This was an interesting one because essentially what I think is happening in the real estate market right now is that COVID essentially, I'm going to try to make this concise. COVID essentially made it such that everybody and their mother wanted to own a house, right? Nobody wants to live in an apartment when you're trying to like social distance and there's like this scary virus going around that, you know, people don't understand. People aren't going out and spending a ton of money because there's nothing to do, right? Everyone's on lockdown, so people are having savings. We have those what do they call thank you. Stimulus checks, right? So everyone's kind of like getting flushed with money, more or less, right? And so interest rates go down to like 3%, which is unheard of. So everybody wants to buy a house during COVID, which they do, right? In those 2 years, home prices appreciated 30%. Let's just go with 30%. That's about what El Paso saw. Some places higher, Austin was higher, other places less. But for the most part, during COVID, home prices appreciated 30%. Okay, so great. All right, everything's good here. And so what is happening in the market right now is homes are still selling at that higher appreciated, that 30% price. Okay, so this home in Cimarron Canyon, we basically sold for $530,000, which was high. The seller actually wanted to sell for $540,000, and nobody would bite. $530,000 was pretty high, and honestly, I'm surprised that we did get it under contract, and it was a cash buyer, which is unbelievable. But in some senses, we were sort of lucky because you could almost buy a new home for that price if you just would have been willing to wait. And so that home didn't get appraised because it was a cash buyer. Okay, if the buyer would have been a traditional buyer using a lender, I don't think that home would have appraised at $530,000. And if you saw the pictures, it was a really nice home. But it just what's happening, I think, is we're at the height of where you can sell your home at this 30% higher kind of level. Those days are numbered, and what's going to happen, in my humble opinion, is that home prices are going to start to slide. Okay, I'm not saying that home prices are going to crash. There's not going to be a housing crash. I've been saying this forever. The only thing that could possibly make it such that we would have a housing crash, something catastrophic would have to happen. I've been thinking about this lately. I'm trying to even just brainstorm ideas of what could possibly happen that would cause a housing crash. Only thing I've come up with so far is essentially, if there was, let's say, a massive stock market crash and a lot of people who are potentially, higher end buyers all of a sudden are weakened financially. I mean, honestly, even that. The reason that we had the crash in 2008 is because people who weren't qualified to get home loans were given loans, and a lot of those loans were what we call adjustable rate mortgages. And so what happened is, when the economy started to tank there, all of a sudden a lot of these adjustable rate mortgages, the interest rates increased, which made it such that people's mortgage payments were significantly higher, right? And so they couldn't afford the higher mortgage payments, and so a lot of people defaulted. There were tons of foreclosures. And so then what happens is that, let's say like my house right now, in 2008, let's say I'm living in this house, and a couple of people within a mile of me have this happen to them. Maybe they lose their job, maybe they can't afford this new mortgage payment with the adjustable rate, and their house goes into foreclosure, right? Well, guess what happens then when I want to sell my house is the appraisal takes into consideration those homes that just sold for foreclosures, which is significantly less. So a home that maybe was supposed to sell for $250,000 foreclosed, and somebody bought it for $110,000, and then guess what? When I'm trying to sell my house, that comp of $110,000 is what they're valuing my house out. So now my house, instead of being worth $250,000, now my house all of a sudden is worth $180,000, $150,000, or something like that. Yeah. But there's no way that's going to happen now. Nobody's doing adjustable rate mortgages really anymore, aside from commercial side. But on the residential side, nobody's doing adjustable rate mortgages. People have tons of equity in their home. There's unemployment is low, so people aren't strapped for cash, and so it's just not going to happen. Like, I can't even think of a situation.
What do you think? Because I'm going to get bringing to the comments. Lost and Found, the sound is perfect. Appreciate that. Mike says, housing correction, what signs and by how much? Where have you seen like media or stuff like that kind of points to this?
Well, there's no shortage of media, and this drives me insane because, as you know, for a while I couldn't take it anymore. It was like every day on YouTube there was some thumbnail with some guy's face with a shocking and fire behind them, and like the market's gonna crash. By the way, you don't see those too much anymore. I mean, they're still out there, but people have given up because it just didn't happen. So there's no shortage of data that suggests that there's going to be a correction. But what I think is behind a correction is that right now there's not a lot of homes for sale, right? But there's also not a lot of buyers who are qualified to make purchases. For instance, here in El Paso, Fort Bliss, right? Normally, soldiers are coming in all the time, and they're moving to El Paso. It's an affordable place, and they're buying houses. Right. That's not happening so much anymore. A lot of soldiers who are PCSing now are living on base or making other housing arrangements, right? Because interest rates are 6 to 8%, and so a lot of them are staying. So there's not as many buyers, and so we're in a situation now where there's not a lot of houses for sale, but there's also not a lot of buyers, and so buyers now can be more picky, right? And what's gonna happen is that right now, for the most part, it's fair to say homes are selling for asking price. What's gonna happen, and it is happening a little bit, is homes are gonna start selling for less than asking price, because buyers, they're sort of in charge a little bit, because there aren't a ton of homes, and so homes aren't getting 5-10 offers anymore. Homes now are lucky if they get 2, 3, 4 offers, quite honestly.
Right.
And buyers are being more picky. So instead of even coming in at asking price, now buyers are trying to come in $5,000 under, 10 under, 15 under. And so what's going to happen is that people have to sell their homes. And so they're going to accept a little bit less. And then guess what? Somebody sold their house for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 less, and then the next person that tries to sell their house in that neighborhood, well, guess what? The appraisal for the one that sold for 15 under is going to impact what the new inventory goes for. So what I think is going to happen is that homes are going to start to sell for less than asking price, not drastically, okay, 5 to 15, 20 under asking price, and then after a couple of months, those homes that sold under the asking price become the comps for the next homes. If that makes sense. I hope I'm explaining that well, but that's what I think.
Yeah, no, it makes sense because like you said, the market is just changing so much. I remember during COVID, I just felt bad for people because they, 10, 15 houses, and they'll put, I really love this house. Obviously, they'll get very attached to it, and they had to compete with 15, 20, 30 other people that put offers 15, 20 over asking price. So, buyers, what do you call buyers fatigue, right? So now it's just crazy how it changes. Now, like you said, now, you can get houses for asking price for the most part, unless it's a house that is just, one of those we call unicorns, right? They might still sell for over asking price, maybe 5, maybe 10, but for the most part, it's just, most of the houses are selling for asking price, and some of them are selling for under. So yeah, I've seen the switch, slowly, but definitely, like you said, I feel like the buyers now are slowly having more of a, purchasing power, you could say.
Totally.
And especially like you said, if these homes are selling for less, the appraisals are just gonna, affect.
It's gonna drag the prices of all the homes slowly down.
Yeah.
That's what I think is gonna happen.
Yeah. No, I believe so too. I mean, again, nobody knows, but that's what we're kind of seeing happening. I mean, we see it every day. It feels like one week we have something, and then the next week it's like, oh man, it changed already, right? So I'm curious to see what that change is gonna be, how much, when is it gonna level itself out? You never know. I guess we'll see next year, whatever they do with the interest rates, whatever happens. But yeah, no, that makes again for me also a lot of sense.
Yeah. But again, at the same time too, I don't see this necessarily as a terrible bad thing. You have to keep. I use my house myself as an example because you have to keep this in mind. Because let's say that you bought your house, a year or two ago, or even before COVID. Remember, home prices in about 2 years appreciated 30%. So if over the next year or two they come down 5-10%. Well, guess what? You're still up 20%. You know what I mean? So the only people that this is potentially not great news for are the people who bought their house in the last year or so.
Right.
And all it means for them is that they're not going to be able to, in a year or two, if they decide that they made a mistake, sell their house and maybe break even.
Right.
It means that if you bought your house in the last year or so, you may have to hold your house for the next 5 to 10 years, and by that time the roller coaster will be going back up again, and you'll be above water, so to speak. So for the rest of us who bought our homes maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago, we're great because, again, when something goes up 30%, even if it comes down 10, you're still up 20%. You know what I mean? So, like I said, this really only affects the people who bought their house recently in the last year or so. And even then, I do think that El Paso's it's a strong market.
Yeah.
El Paso has so much going for it, and we're still affordable compared to so many other places. Even so, we're still in pretty good shape, I think.
And the city is growing. I mean, we talked about this every time. The city is growing. Businesses, companies are moving. So, I mean, if everything is bad, it's gonna be everywhere. But I feel like we're gonna be kind of like the better cities out of the rest. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna, like people say, it's gonna crash or anything. But I do see what you're saying makes more sense to me. Because a lot of people are afraid. They're like, hey, how's El Paso? Is it growing? Am I scared buying a house here? Is it gonna? So I always tell them I think that El Paso is like when they told me 15 years ago, Phoenix was just like El Paso, and now it's just this giant city. Everything is expensive, so I do generally feel like El Paso is going to grow that much in 10, 15 years, whatever it takes. And I know some locals might not be happy to hear that, but it's just the reality, growth, especially when, for me, I think El Paso is great, and I've noticed that being here, people from El Paso is like, no. But maybe because I've been to different places, right? And I just really like El Paso, so I think it's just going to continue to grow. And eventually everything is gonna be fine. But yeah, it's a little bit tricky to just trying to figure out what things are happening, because it changes almost every day, every week. So you're just gonna have to adapt.
Yeah, it's nothing you can do. Play the long game. Like I said, the real estate is just a roller coaster. It's up, it's down. It's down now. It's gonna come back up. So. Everybody, a house is still one of the most valuable assets you can have, a great wealth building tool. And if you don't want a house, great, you can rent, So there's options, we're not saying you have to buy a house. If you think that the housing market is going to crash, cool, rent an apartment.
And talking about renting, John, which is weird, I thought before everybody's El Paso has a very strong rental market, right? And you see rentals and then they get rented really quick. But lately, the past 6 months, I've noticed, at least in the area, like the West Side, High Ridge area, a lot of homes for rent, and they've been for rent for like 2-3 months.
So I think I know what this is, because this was part of my. This is some people were trying to do this to push this idea for a while, but I don't think it holds water. This is the Airbnb crash theory. Right. This is the theory that the Airbnb market is going to crash, which it feels like it is, which is totally true, because I mean, people just have less expendable cash, I would guess. Dare I say that El Paso's Airbnb market it was doing great there for a while, but now that things have simmered down, it's probably not going to do that great, because just like we were talking about, we're not a tourist city, So, I mean, our Airbnbs, I'm guessing, were mostly rented out by people who were either just passing through, or maybe were just coming to visit family, things like that. So, let's say, sure, the Airbnb market crashes, and so all of these investors who have these homes that they're using for short-term rentals, now they're in trouble. So what are they going to do? They're going to put that sign in the yard saying for rent, and they're going to try to transition from a short-term rental to a long-term rental. Right. And so I think what's maybe happening, and we don't do rentals, so we're not in this market that much, but what I guess is happening is that a lot of the people here in the short-term rental market are seeing that kind of crash, so to speak, and they're trying to quickly transition their short-term rental into a long-term rental, and so then you get a bunch of long-term rental inventory on the market, and it sits longer.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also what I've noticed, because I don't remember if you remember when Airbnb first started, I was like, oh man, why would I pay for a hotel when I can spend a little bit more of the same? And I feel like Airbnbs are more expensive than hotels. I wanted to go to Ruidoso. Yeah, I wanted to go to Ruidoso, and there's this like cabins or whatever. Not trying to. I stay anywhere. I'll sleep on the floor, but these places are not the best, and they were like $250 a night, and it was like 70% was a cleaning fee, and I get it, right? But it's like, I feel like the Airbnb kind of lost a little bit of its appeal, because again, before it was like, oh man, it's cheaper, I can get an actual an apartment or house for myself, but I feel like hotels now, it's kind of nicer. Obviously, if you get a lot of people, you split it, but I feel like a lot of people lost the Airbnb, because it's something more expensive than hotels, so.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny, this morning, Leah and I were trying to find an Airbnb in Flagstaff, Arizona next month. There's a little race up there that we're going to go do. And yeah, I mean, we were trying to find a place for 3 nights, and the least affordable option was just under $700 for 3 nights, And trust me, like, they weren't like super nice places. They were, so... Yeah, that's another interesting thing. And I was even trying to think, okay, is there any possible way that this Airbnb crash could start a housing crash? No, there's no way. Because all like I said, these people who own these short-term rentals, these Airbnb properties, they're either going to long-term rent them, and yeah, they're not going to make maybe as much, but they should still be able to easily cover their mortgage, right? And if they can't find a long-term renter, then maybe they sell them. But homes are still selling at the top of the market. We haven't started to really see that slip. So there's no way that like somebody who's holding one of these Airbnb properties, like that they're gonna walk away from the property and like foreclose, and then it's gonna bring all the prices down. I mean, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, and I'm curious to talk because I, showing properties and all that, I got to meet quite a bit of people, and I'm curious to talk about that to them about what's specifically happening. How is this impacting them? Because there was a guy that he had like 17 Airbnbs, all of them in Central, right? It looks like Central is like the most popular. And he was selling a bunch of them, and then another guy had one. He says some months are good or not, but I'm really curious to actually see these people that have 15, 20 Airbnbs, like how much is it actually affecting them? Because like you said, El Paso is not like a tourist destination, right? It seems like a lot of people are like there for work for a month, Fort Bliss or at the hospital, nurses, stuff like that. So I'm curious because like I said, it makes sense that they've switched instead of Airbnb. Let's do long-term rentals just so I don't have to worry about it. Because I don't know about Airbnb. I've never managed an Airbnb, but some people say it's easy. You just use the app. But I'm assuming it might be kind of stressful. I don't know.
I mean, imagine like the person who owns the 15 Airbnbs, like they're gonna. Nobody should feel sorry for them because they are going to cash out. Because I mean, imagine if you had 15 properties and basically in the last 2 years they all appreciated 30%. Like,
well, and he's
it's got so much money if they would just sell them.
And he told me he started like, I forgot, but it was like 5 years ago. And I was like, wait, so you from one Airbnb now you have 17 in 5 years? And I had to ask him, I was like, is it because you just have a lot of money to invest, or because your first Airbnb got you there? And I think he said he just has other businesses and it helped him out. So it's not like he made a fortune for Airbnb. But yeah, it's just curious. Again, it's just a lot of different sectors that affect us all to a point.
Yeah.
It's interesting to know.
Yeah, very interesting. I was even thinking about, maybe if what would cause a housing crash? We go to war with China, let's say. Well, that's not going to cause a housing crash because typically war is like the best thing for an economy. So, I mean, like I said, I literally can't think of anything that's going to cause people to basically not be able to pay for their home and have to foreclose and sell it at a significant loss. Like, I literally can't think of any reasonable scenario where that's going to happen.
What do you think it's because I've seen a lot of news articles about repossessions for cars. That's happening a lot. And like everybody and their mom was qualified for a car, and now it's just like everybody is getting their car repo because they can't pay for it, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like why? It just seems like a cycle, right? Kind of repeating itself. But yeah, I agree with you. And a lot of people, I think it's just like I said, the media, right? Clicks, the thumbnails with the explosion in the back and the house burning. But yeah, again, the more we work here in El Paso, the more time goes by. I just don't see that. Yeah. So a lot of people we have, I'm waiting because everything's gonna crash and I'm gonna come in and soup everything cheap. Again, nobody knows. I don't know. Maybe it's gonna crash tomorrow, but I don't I just don't see that. I do see what you say, the correction a little bit, because I mean the appreciation was crazy during COVID. But yeah, I just see El Paso very solid when it comes onto real estate market.
Yeah, for sure. And we can wrap it up, and we don't need to beat a dead horse, but I think if anything, I'll make a prediction here. I think if anything, in the next 6 to 18 months, we see prices slide down a little bit. I'll take a guess, 5%, 10% tops. All right, 6 to 18 months, right? Economy is still shaky, recession, we're battling inflation, the election coming up, who knows what kind of craziness might accompany that. So 6 to 18 months, maybe we see a 5 to 10% dip in current prices. But then guess what's going to likely happen? Likely, we'll get a handle on the recession, inflation, things like that. Guess what happens then? Interest rates go from 7% and then they slip down to 6 and then they slip down to 5. Once interest rates get back down to 5%, and by the way, I don't think we're ever going back to 3%, but once they get down to 5% or something, guess what's going to happen? Everyone's going to get requalified. Everyone's going to get excited again about buying a home. Remember, there are thousands and thousands of millennials coming into the market, right? Who want to buy homes, starts families, all of this stuff. And then 5% interest rates, 6 to 18 months, guess what's going to happen? The roller coaster is going to start climbing up again, and we're right back where we were a year or two ago, where, houses are getting 5, 10, 15 offers, and everything just starts over. Like, it's just a cycle.
God, I hope that was not fun times. Yeah. It was like 15, 30 offers and nobody
that
could
was
get
insane.
a house.
That was too much. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't swing to that extreme.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
That was crazy, but yeah. So, like I said, I think we've beaten that one in pretty good. Anything exciting coming up for you? What do you got going on in the near future here?
Family coming for Thanksgiving. It seems like I'm happy about that. It seems like this is the place now that everybody, I'm assuming other Hispanic families, for Mexicans, we get together, holidays, so every Christmas is going somewhere. And you know me, because we have our dogs, it's hard to travel and all that. So I'm glad that they all decided to come here during the Thanksgiving, and then maybe Christmas or around that time, a couple days to Mexico City to visit my sister, because she can't come here. But yeah, other than that, it's Independence Day, Mexican Independence Day today. Might try. I don't think I have time, but I'm sure there's stuff happening downtown maybe tomorrow. That's one thing I like here about El Paso. There's just a lot of little events like that.
For sure.
A lot of different cultural things and all that type of stuff. So, but other than that, no, I'm just kind of happy that the weather's not as hot, and and just continue to work. How about you?
Yeah. Got a race in October, we mentioned, in Flagstaff, which we're excited about. Actually, my parents, who live in Florida, always come down also, or always come over for Thanksgiving, so they'll be here for Thanksgiving, so that'll be nice. And beyond that, honestly, we don't have much of anything really planned, just kind of keep doing what we're doing. We recently got our stupid pool redone. The deck was falling apart. The way they do a pool deck is they just like put paint on top of paint on top of paint until like eventually it's like you're like walking on it and it's like cracking. And with our dogs running around it like crazy, it was all getting chewed up. So bit the bullet and did the pool recently. We might do a little video on that. But yeah, other than that, oh, you know I should have put this footage in there. When when Leah and I went on our trip to Colorado, we also went to Utah, and we wanted to see Zion National Park and Bryce Canyon, which we did. But one day we were like, oh, well, we've got this Jeep, this 4x4 Jeep, man, let's go out and rip it up. And so we talked to the guy where we were staying, and he's also a Jeep guy, and he told us these trails that we could go check out, right? Which we did, and long story short, we went up this mountain, and it started raining, and all of a sudden, and we were trying to come back down the mountain and get out, and the water's like rushing through, and it's all like kind of like red sand. It's not a lot of rock. It's a lot of like red dirt and sand, and it's raining, and like all of a sudden the middle of the roads are like just like flowing water, right? And we get down to this spot, and we're a mile from the road where we could almost be out, right? And we get down to this spot, and the entire middle of the road is just completely gone. It's probably like, I don't know, like 3-4 feet, the ditch in the middle of the road. And then on the side of the road, there's a little, those little side by side, those little razors, and they had stopped, and we watched them. They got out and they looked at it, but those little razors they're skinnier, right? And so they went up one of the sides and just floored it and just like made it up the side and out and around. And so we got down there, and we were gonna try to do the same thing that the razor did, just floor it and just like go up on the side and kind of, but there was a fence, so you couldn't go all the way to the side and avoid the ditch. So we tried it, but as soon as we got up there, we like slid down into the ditch, and so we were stuck. And we're not seasoned off-roaders. Too bad Leah's not here to tell this story. But I immediately freaked out. I was like, like call the guy, like someone's gonna have to come get us, and I was like, but like we were like at this angle, and we had the dogs in the back with us, and like the dogs were like slid down to the side, you know, and like couldn't even get up, and Leah couldn't get out because we slid into all this. So anyway, long story short, it took us like, I don't know, like 7-8 hours, and I just had to like, thank God I had a shovel in these traction pads, and I just had to like shovel dirt, and then we would go a little bit more and I'd shovel dirt. And so I should have put some pictures of that on. Also too, Leah ran into a big stump like on the side of the trail before that. She was trying to avoid something, and we thought it was just a stick, but it turned out to be like this huge tree, and it got wedged into the fender and like ripped the fender off. So we had some good off-road adventures in Utah. So oh man, I should have had pictures of that. That's what I should have done.
God, that sounds horrible. Yeah, whole adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and in Oregon, when I used to live in Portland, it's very popular to go on the mountain, but it's different because, like you said, it's just mud, right? Mm-hmm. And then it just, you have to be very good and knowing how to, do all this stuff. So you see all the cars just stuck there in a band because everybody's like, I can do it. I just bought a truck, and they go, and it's just apparently a lot harder than it looks. But yeah, it's a very, very, and you mentioned there's some people here in El Paso. There's a group that like does that. It's very popular to do that, right? And also like go camping with your with your truck and all that. Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, it's a lot of off-roading around here.
Yeah,
so.
There's a lot of desert where you can just go out and just tear it up if you want. So, yeah. All right. Any comments we got to say?
Just Freeloader Adventure said, good morning, guys. And Amanda.
I think that's Chris. Actually, yeah.
And just Amanda reacting to your story. Nice. Pics or it didn't happen. He doesn't believe you're freeloader.
Yeah, next time I'll show you the
pictures. Pictures of like your truck in the ditch?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Cool. Well, obviously we appreciate everybody, stopping by, leaving comments. Even though there's 13 people, I know a lot of you guys don't comment, which is totally fine. But we do these live streams. Obviously me and John are very, very thankful for everybody on the channel. And obviously we want to hear from you guys, your experiences, your questions. And if you want us to talk about a specific comment, if there's something happening you guys wants to cover, just please let us know, because again, we're nothing but thankful for you guys, for all the support throughout the years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, without people watching the videos and checking out the channel, we wouldn't be doing this. So yeah, thank you so much. We do appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess the next couple of videos we got a lot of model houses. Seems like people really love model houses. Actually, after this, we're going over to a listing that we're going to take in Enchanted Hills. That'll be the next little video that we pop up. And aside from that, I'm sure we'll do another live episode. Yeah, like Alex says, if you have ideas, thoughts, questions, reach out, let us know, and we'll cater the live episodes to you. And I guess with that, we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah, we'll see you next time again. Thank you guys, and thank you for your patience. I know, again, we're new to this live thing. Hopefully the mic is a lot better, and just with time, we'll just get better. But again, like John said, thank you. If you guys need anything, obviously, feel free to reach out. And again, thank you for your time.